This is live from Northwoods and Waters. Thank you all for being here. Northwoods and Waters of the St. Croix Heritage Area is an organization that unites the people of the watershed to promote the natural, cultural, and historic resources we share. So where are we? We're across Minnesota and Wisconsin, and we cover 114 zip codes, and that's a lot of area in these rural places. And tonight we're going to find out more exciting things that are happening in the watershed and connect you to the place you live. So through conversations with communities, Northwoods and Waters came to these three goals, which are to create sustainable economic opportunities, which are based on the region's heritage, and enhance communities' livability and quality of life, to connect the region in order to help preserve and enhance our historic, cultural, and natural resources that exist within this distinctive watershed, and to increase awareness and understanding of our heritage, stories, and the resources that demonstrate those stories. And that's both to raise awareness among people who live here and to bring in meaningful tourism from people who don't live here. So what you can help us with is getting National Heritage Area designation. What does this mean? So it's similar to a national park in that it's through the National Park Service, but it's different in many, many ways, including who owns the land and who decides what happens on the land. And you can reach out to us to learn more, but we've already gotten the green light from the National Park Service, which is half the battle. And now we just need to get an act of Congress to become a National Heritage Area. But yeah, we need your help to do that. So without further ado, tonight we're going to talk about the St. Croix Watershed Stewards. This program is for the love of the watershed. I'm going to hand it over to Tova, who will tell you more about what the St. Croix Watershed Stewards are up to.
As I start, I just have to say I love the idea of Tova and the Watershed Stewards. It sounds like it should be a band. And I do want to also say that this is not just the St. Croix Watershed Stewards. We've got two Watershed Stewards groups represented tonight. And so we are super lucky to have all of this love helping out the St. Croix Watershed with the Washington Conservation District, as well as our St. Croix Steward cohort. So we're going to talk about all of it. And I'm going to start off talking about the St. Croix Watershed Stewards and get some input from stewards who are here right now. So we've already gone through a couple of the little intro bits. Thank you, Sashi. So we cover a lot of area, and we've got great partnerships throughout the watershed, from Mora to Cable and Spooner down to Prescott, and it's just exciting to see all the projects going. The St. Croix Watershed Steward mission is to dramatically increase environmental stewardship ethics and activities in the St. Croix watershed. So we're just going to highlight a few of the many activities going on in the watershed this summer, and focus on some of the work that's being done thanks to the recent award that we're privileged to get to use from Grinnell College, the Joseph F. Ward. So we are partnering, of course, working with Northwoods and Waters Heritage Area. And so the St. Croix Watershed Stewards are grateful to have that partnership and get to partner on the website as well, because creating a whole new website, oh my gosh. And Giant Watershed, I'm going to start with the very bottom bit. So just a little north of Prescott is the scenic city of River Falls, Wisconsin. And that's where a majority of the photos from the first couple of slides are. That's where I live. And I came to this watershed work because the nitrate level in my private well was going up, and that's the wrong direction. So I became interested. I was lucky to hear about the St. Croix Watershed Steward program. And in addition to learning how to protect my own well, found that we have all these opportunities to get younger people involved so we can change the stewardship ethics and start to make a difference throughout the watershed and throughout the generations that are being affected by the watershed. So obviously, the youth are likely to be dealing with our watershed for longer than somebody like me. So a couple of reasons that projects around the Kinney focus on youth watershed stewardship initiatives, in part is to build that land and water ethic, a little bit younger. Takes all ages, getting a multi-generational bridge here. And additionally, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and a lot of anxiety at a lot of different levels, and some of the just hands-on activities that students have been able to participate in. They've reported that some of the helps reduce some of the climate anxiety, helps reduce some of those worries a little, at least. So a little bit of a health aspect in addition to the watershed stewardship aspect. And I love to use quotes, so I often think of Lorrie Otto, who was a Wisconsin conservationist who helped to ban DDT, and thinking of that disempowering feeling when you just think, I'm just one person, I can't do anything. A lot of our watershed stewardship projects are one person, one steward, or one small group of people making a giant difference. And so I just wanted to highlight that we can all make a difference, even in times when it seems like nothing can make a difference. So this work has been really important to me, and I hope that some of these photos at least will show that it's done some great stuff for the watershed. So River Falls has the Kinnick River, a tributary of the St. Croix, and we are in process of a dam removal in partnership with the Wisconsin DNR, Army Corps of Engineers, FERC, so some local, state, and federal entities, along with different businesses and nonprofits. And the youth are getting involved with that, both high school and university. So bringing that community part into the watershed work, doing some water testing. In this, the prior slide in this picture where it's freezing cold and people are getting into the river to actually do some water monitoring, and then doing some mitigation remediation. And I don't know if folks can see the slide to the right, but we've got all sorts of native plants that are buffering the Kinnick and making it a healthier, happier place, reducing runoff and fast water. And so that's just one of the projects that we've been able to build on with the Grinnell award and additional grants that were leveraged off of that. We've got some additional high school projects with youth watershed stewardship, and then some university interns doing some water monitoring before that lower dam comes out. So we've got some base monitoring information, and that is the news from the lower end of the watershed. I am going to turn it over to a couple more St. Croix watershed stewards to talk about a little bit farther upstream, and work with, we also partner with host sites with local partners. And this is some work that Julie Kilpatrick and Mary Dilkowski are doing with the Wild Rivers Conservancy, formerly St. Croix Rivers Association. And so I will let Julie and Mary take over and just tell me when to switch the slide.
Okay, you can switch. Okay, so my name is Julie Kilpatrick, and I'm a water steward with
Mary Delkowski.
Yes, we hooked up in our water steward program with shared interests in protecting our watershed. And so the project inspiration for us was that I had attended a workshop by Sharon Day, an Ojibwe elder, water walker, and executive director of the Indigenous Peoples Task Force. And she really inspired me to get more involved, and I became involved with the Wild Rivers Conservancy, formerly known as the St. Croix River Association.
I've also been aware of Sharon Day's work for many years, and I came to watershed advocacy through a trip that my husband and I took to Standing Rock, where we met with Chief Looking Horse, who told us to go home and find the watershed in your backyard. And I grew up in St. Croix River, and that's my watershed. So I was very fortunate that was, at the time, there was an opening into the Watershed Stewards program.
Right. So this inspiration allowed us to become water stewards, and now we're working with Tova on the grant. Okay, Tova, you want to go to the next slide? So again, I just want to share the partners that we have. The Wild Rivers Conservancy is the official friends group of the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. And our other partner is the Indigenous Peoples Task Force, run by Sharon Day, Executive Director. So our project goals are that we wanted to partner, since I work and both of us are volunteers for Wild Rivers, we wanted to partner with the youth program of Indigenous Peoples Task Force. So we have 3 different paddles that are going on this summer for different age groups. So the first paddle is with adult interns who have done a lot of intern work for human service organizations in their communities. And this is a couple of them getting going just our last Monday, actually, when it was very, very hot. They really enjoyed being on the water. Okay, next. So again, we wanted to connect with them because a lot of Native youth don't have the academic ability, or not ability so much as the opportunity to learn about environmental science. So they were very interested in partnering with the River Association, and we came out on the river and they offered a tobacco ceremony while we also discovered many mussels and a variety of other animals in the water. Okay, next. Okay, Tova, you can go next. So here they're getting ready for the ceremony, and we found that they really enjoyed looking at not just the river animals, but also animals on the rocks. And you can show the next slide, Tova. Here they are again. And they had a lot of questions and wondering about jobs in conservation. Okay, you can go next. So we discovered these casings of dragonfly larvae that were stuck to the rocks, and we just found hundreds of them. And they show the health of the river by the fact that they can live there. But these are the casings where the dragonflies came out, and we had a ball finding like hundreds and hundreds of them, and they'd never seen that before. So, okay, next. So here are the volunteers. We had staff from Wild Rivers Conservancy and 3 trip leaders who are trained in leading trips on the St. Croix. So we all had a great time, even though it was a very hot day. We really appreciate having this grant, and we look forward to the 2 more paddle dates with the younger teens and the preteens coming up this summer. Thanks, Tova and everyone.
Thank you for all that you're doing, and I am super excited about all the dragonfly hatching, not only because they eat hundreds of mosquitoes, but thank you for all the photos, and I'm excited to hear about the additional trips, the paddling, and what people think. I am going to just brag about a couple of stewards who are not here, and then let another steward jump in and explain, give some updates. We've got, again, work all along the St. Croix, and so this slide covers from St. Mary's Point and Afton, or St. Croix Beach near Afton, all the way up to Marina on St. Croix, closer to Scandia, and all along the river, we're trying to put in additional buffers and additional green to, again, slow runoff to the river, and then also to mitigate climate issues and weather issues, and to replenish some of the trees that were taken out from different events, from storms to emerald ash borer, etc. So this is next few slides sent over by John Goodfellow, who I believe is a dual steward. He has dual stewardship for both of our steward programs, working on all sorts of amazing projects, and I only know of a few of them. But we are going to hear about the way that his tree gravel bed project has maybe helped inspire some additional projects in the watershed. So John Goodfellow wanted to note that he had originally, for his St. Croix Watershed Steward project, been working on an urban forest plan. He helped Marine on St. Croix become a Tree City USA. And in addition, this original project catalyzed several additional projects, one of them dealing with mitigating the loss of ash canopy due to emerald ash borer. And so this is an adorable baby picture. All these baby tamarack trees that are in the tree gravel bed that are going to be propagated and then planted to replace black ash in wetland and riparian corridors. So we're revitalizing green space, keeping that resilience, some mitigation of the emerald ash borer underway due to John Goodfellow's work and work with partners. So I think, oh, and then research always comes into it. So there was a study, an inventory done determining that 10% of the landscape trees in the Marine on St. Croix area were ash. So with that perspective, they were able to get more partners, informed for future efforts. And so we've got the local parks that they've got some vital placement ash that are getting injections, and others that are going to have that tamarack or other tree replacement. And so this is kind of the work that's being done all throughout the watershed by stewards. We've also got a lot of the research throughout the watershed on lake and river water quality and macroinvertebrate, from benthic macroinvertebrates to mussels to other flora and fauna, looking at the health of the watershed through all of these lenses. And so we have another steward who started looking at bogs and then looking at how climate change and other factors are affecting natural wetlands and bogs. And then now this steward is through the Grinnell Award, working on some water quality monitoring in various sites from Warner Nature Center to Lake Elmo. And he is not here to talk about this, but we've got a lot of information coming in that can help inform future efforts. So we will be, through this summer, hopefully putting some of that information and some of those resources and templates up onto the North Woods and Waters website. So please do check back July and August, because I'm slow at this, but we'll have some of this this work in more detail up on the website. So different projects, in-depth research, education and outreach for all ages, and community projects. So you get some fun while you're doing good for the watershed. And I am going to just see if another one of our stewards wants to say anything about bringing fun into work for the watershed, because Gladys Sipple has been doing amazing stuff with busting buckthorn for years, getting everyone from university students working in conservation to get a resume builder and some delicious snacks while working with Carpenter Nature Center, to all sorts of other groups. And she's been amazing. And then this year she, I'm gonna have to skip slides, sorry friends, did a Mother's Day event of garlic mustard pesto. And so Gladys, if you'd like to talk about making work for the watershed fun and your current project upcoming, please take it away.
Okay, well, thank you. As Tova said, my main focus has for many years been busting buckthorn. I just like to kill things, I guess. But And then this spring, it was doing the garlic mustard, which was a lot of fun. And again, pulling up that garlic mustard that doesn't need to be there, and showing that there's some use for it. You know, it's an edible. I've never been a big forager, but there's a lot out there that can be foraged. And so that was a lot of fun. We had about I think it was 17 people that came, and I was one of the oldest ones there. I think it was a couple of families, so that was really nice. And it's just you know, it was just fun because, oh my gosh, look at this and look at all this, and then the discussion of what to look for and what's the most edible, and you know, how to do it. And so yeah, that was a fun project. And now I do have a current project going on that's very different. And that was that as I looked at the prairie, I'm kind of going, oh, that's such a pretty flower. What is it? And so I get out my book and I look, but there are so many flowers, and I find one, oh, that's pretty similar. Oh, it's only found in way southern Wisconsin. Well, that's not really probably too viable. So the idea then is to create a little booklet for people to use when they visit the Carpenter Nature Center Wisconsin campus. And these flowers are here, so you should be able to see them. And here's spring and summer, fall, and then it kind of applies really to this whole area, but that's the main focus. And so I do have a friend who has many photographs, and unfortunately he just was incapacitated for a little bit, but we'll be getting together really soon and being able to get at this, to make these little booklets. And Tova said, wouldn't it be nice to have something online, an app? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, you know, everybody's running around with these. And so if we could have an app available and that could be easily used, that would be really good too. So that's the current thing. And it's just, you know, the pictures of the flowers actually available, some description of where they grow. And I would like to also get at who uses them, who finds the value in these flowers. And for that purpose, we're also getting some, with the grant that I received, we're also getting some nets for kids to start capturing things and seeing what is available. And plus, you know, with having some activity, that also captures their attention and will get them looking at the flowers more too. And so that's coming up. And actually tomorrow I'm going to be going in and helping at, and the sponsor here is all Carpenter Nature Center. And they have their main offices down by Hastings in Minnesota, right on the St. Croix, but they also manage over 300 acres here in Wisconsin, just 3 miles south of Hudson. And that's part of the watershed because all of the, you know, water does end up down in the St. Croix. And so, so that's a major focus. And if I can just make a plug here, they've been able to build a visitor center on campus. Otherwise, there's been nothing, you know, really out there. It's been open, but nothing. So now there's this visitor center. The grand opening is the second weekend of July. And so please do go online, just Google Carpenter Nature Center and get more information about that. And I'm just so excited about it because it's beautiful. And what we're working on now is planting plants around the building. And I didn't order the plants. And so, yeah, it's just that, never mind. But we're watering them right now to keep them alive and just keep it looking as a beautiful place that the neighbors and everyone that visits it will just kind of enjoy. So
perfect plug for our host sites. Shout out to all the host sites, and definitely exploring the new Carpenter Nature Center is on my list of things to do. So thank you for noting that. And yeah, and thank you for all your wonderful work, Gladys, and all of the stewards. I'm going to go back one quick slide just because I see we're getting close on time and I don't want to overbalance, but additional native planting and getting that education out. I think a lot of Gladys' work reminds me of the Jacques Cousteau quote that we protect what we love what we know. So we've got to have that education and learn to love things. And once we love things, we want to protect them. And Gladys' work highlights that in my mind. And then Mark Bewley and Tracy Nooner, some other stewards who are not able to be here tonight, but sent me some photos, are doing that same thing a little bit further north in Amory and Frederick, and working on education about native plants, and then encouraging city lots instead of having grass to have additional native plants, especially in areas where they might be prone to flooding or other issues that could affect the watershed. So just a quick backtrack moving forward through the garlic mustard. And then I wanted to just give a round of things if there are any additional things I missed from my steward group that people want to throw in, please do. So cool. Well, I'm sure I missed some stuff because there is just a lot of great work going on, but we will be putting information up on the North Woods and Waters website as soon as possible. And so we will have some events, some places to visit, like the new Carpenter Nature Center site. And so please do check it out. And these slides will be available. So if you're looking for next spring, garlic mustard pesto recipe. With that, I will hand it over to Angie Hong to talk a little bit about our steward group and the work that's being done.
Wonderful. Well, that was exciting to hear about some of the projects that are going on. We were just saying at the beginning of this meeting that we're both familiar with what our own stewards are doing, but not necessarily what one another. And there's a lot of overlap in our two areas. So my name's Angie Hong, and I coordinate the East Metro Water Resource Education Program. We're based out of Washington County, but have expanded somewhat recently to include portions of Chisago, Anoka, Isanti, and Pine County, in conjunction with having worked with local government entities in those counties to create a 10-year watershed management plan for the lower St. Croix watershed. So, we're kind of taking this existing education partnership that we've had going for 15 years that is funded previously by 25 partners, and now we've got 30 partners, and we're just covering a bigger geographical area, but doing the same kinds of great work. So we have been working in partnership with Freshwater, and they are a Minnesota-based nonprofit organization that created a Minnesota Water Steward program in 2013. And they have been working with local partner agencies. Usually it's local government. So their model is a little bit different than the St. Croix Watershed Stewards, but very similar in terms of engaging active community volunteers who are learning, who are digging deep into the place where they live and doing projects, stewardship projects where they are. So Freshwater has to date, I was trying to look real quick in the background and see if I could find the actual number of how many stewards they've trained in Minnesota, several hundred that are in Minnesota. But we were lucky enough to get a grant from the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources in 2017 to get 20 stewards trained in Washington County. So we had like 3 consecutive rounds where people went through this training program that Freshwater operated, and we act as the host. However, it's not quite the same thing as with, Carpenter Nature Center, where you have this lovely, beautiful campus. We're a countywide organization and we're working actively around the county, but our office is just a boring office. So stewards are doing work in their yards, at their churches, at nature centers, even in the places in their community where they see a need for work to be done, but they're not necessarily coming to our office. So as a way to introduce some of these stewards, we have a story map right here. Let's see, I'm just going to slide that on up there out of the way. Everybody can see okay? All right, so I have a story map that I made sometime last year to kind of share the many different cool projects and programs that our stewards have been working on in Washington County. The freshwater model, everybody goes through 50 hours of training and education. They complete a capstone project and then get certified and then continue volunteering in their watershed thereafter. So you can see over on this side of the map, here's dots of the places where the stewards live that have been working in our area. And I don't need to introduce you to all of them, but I figured I'll highlight a couple, and then 2 of them are actually here. So we can hear from Wally and Tom about their most recent projects that they're going to be working on. But one of the things that does make Washington County a little unique is that we do also have the Mississippi River. So Cole Williams, one of the first stewards that I'll be introducing, she has long been an advocate for the Mississippi River. That's, really where her passion has always been. And one of the things that's been very fun to see is that as our stewards have become educated and engaged and involved, a lot of them have taken leadership positions. So Cole had started as a volunteer, and she had been working not just with the water stewards, but also with Friends of the Mississippi River. She's a poet and an artist, but she recently joined the board of the South Washington Watershed District. And I just found it particularly fun that she joined the board. I have been in my position for 15 years. And for the entirety of the 15 years that I've been in this position, the board for the South Washington Watershed was all men. Yes, in this day and age, it was still 5 men that have been on the board the entire time, but now they have 2 women, and Cole is one of them. So it's lovely to see that change happening. They're still a very good watershed district regardless, but it's just lovely to see that happening. But she worked on a restoration project on her own property along the Mississippi River, restoring shoreline, and then has just been really engaged in the community. So we can keep kind of traveling along here. One of our newest stewards, David, he's the one that's furthest on the left in this picture. Totally different kind of project that he's been working on. So he lives in an HOA condominium association, and he started looking out at the amount of water that was being wasted by excess irrigation. He talked with the city, he talked with the property management company, and he ended up conducting an audit of the irrigation system and then working with the property management company to retrofit the sprinklers in order to be able to save more water. So that's just kind of a fun, very different kind of thing. Another example like that, we've got Steward Jared, who got really engaged in promoting the Adopt a Storm Drain program that we have in Minnesota. People can sign up, if you haven't heard of it yet, adopt-a-drain.org. They can sign up to adopt a storm drain in the community, take care of it, help to reduce stormwater pollution. Well, he actually just went door to door in his neighborhood. Next to all of the storm drains, if there was a house there, he'd knock on their door and say, hey, have you adopted this storm drain yet? Let me tell you about this program. And it was fun to me because I could, visually see where all the little pins were popping up as people were adopting storm drains in that neighborhood where he was going door to door. So there's just been, a lot of different kind of projects that the stewards have worked on. We've got 2 stewards, Joan and Susan, who were helping out with some campus greening projects that the Watershed District was doing, where the schools took non-active use turf out of commission and replanted it with native plants and trees. So they were involved in that. Here's a picture of one of the outdoor classrooms that got built at the school in place of the turf that used to be there. And I think we've almost got up. Oh, no, we're just working our way up through Woodbury. I was thinking we were almost all the way up to Wally, and I could turn it over to him to tell you about his project. But, people have just, like I said, they've chosen the things that are their passion and what they see going on in their backyards. So Nathan is another example. He lives in one of these houses here, which is really close to the Marsh Creek Preserve, and just kind of took it upon himself to begin removing buckthorn and replanting native species in that property. I had thought that Anna was going to be joining us tonight, but I don't think I saw her on. Anna is a water steward and also a master gardener. And so she has long been a volunteer engaged with our organization, but you know, has just kind of amplified the water component of the volunteer work that she's been doing. Okay, so now I made it to Wally. I finally made it to the part of Woodbury that Wally's in. And I'm gonna go ahead, since he's here, I'm going to go ahead and let him maybe talk about the project that he has been doing and what he is going to do with new grant funding from the Grinnell Wall Award.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. I have been a volunteer at Carpenter Nature Center and the Bellwin Conservancy for many years. And last year during COVID, I was looking for additional opportunities to be involved in environmental stewardship. So the Water Steward program was attractive, and I went through training with fresh water. And then my capstone project was removing buckthorn on about 3/4 of an acre on church property in Woodbury. And so we got started by pulling buckthorn mostly, or cutting and treating last fall, and that comprised my capstone project. But that goes on and on. It seems like it never ends. And so we're still pulling buckthorn now, and we planted with a grant from the Watershed District. We are in the South Washington Watershed District. We planted savanna shortgrass on part of this property. And the reason this property is kind of near and dear to our hearts is that the church has been in Woodbury since 1853. And in 1868, there was a church built with stone and wood from the St. Croix River Valley. And also there's oak savanna on this property. And there are 2 bur oak trees that are naturalists estimated to be 250 years old. And so that predates the United States of America. And so we had to pay homage to that and try to restore oak savanna on this property. And so we still have quite a bit of work to do, but through the grant from Grinnell College, we will be able to do more seeding next spring and planting of plugs. So that's what's on store for next year. And then we'd like to also remove more trees, ash trees and box elder trees that are on this property. So I think that's my story.
Well, and I was mentioning that a lot of the stewards get engaged, and you've been on the Woodbury Environmental Commission now for a while, haven't you? And are very engaged in the community that way.
Yes, this year I was appointed to the Woodbury Parks and Natural Resources Commission.
Okay.
So we're starting and Woodbury's done a good job with parks, maybe not so much with natural resources. So that's sort of my focus area.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep flying up, and I know that Tom is here. So once I get to the top of the county, then we'll get to hear from Tom too, and I won't maybe spend so much time on every stop in the middle. I do though want to mention Stephanie Wang here, because Stephanie is one of these kind of steward extraordinaires. She's with the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District. She is the one in the lower right-hand corner of this picture. This is a group of people that she engaged to maintain a rain garden in her neighborhood. But she is one of those people that just kind of pops up everywhere. And in fact, she was recently recognized by the Watershed District as for what was it? It was an Inspiration and Innovation Catalyst Award this past year because she just, she's at the Tamarack Nature Preserve. She is engaged in the community. She's one of those people that you can just always kind of count on to, show up and be happy to get work done. Like I said, we've got overlap. So we've got stewards from both programs that are working in Lake St. Croix Beach, and I'm sure undoubtedly that they know each other, are probably even friends with each other. One of the members from our program, Sally Arneson, actually ended up becoming a board member for the Wild Rivers Conservancy. And she has a property that is just south of the bridge on the St. Croix River, had worked with our office a few years back. And this was a much bigger project than just on her property, but there were some native plantings. She's always been a native plant enthusiast, some native plantings on her property, but then this huge additional erosion control project that she helped to make happen between the city and the watershed district and all these different government partners involved. We've got people building rain gardens. This one is another kind of fun example where, thinking bigger beyond just an in the ground project. John not only took his lawn in his yard and converted it to a prairie yard, but then he talked with the Environmental Commission and the City Council for the city of Lake Elmo and shared his concerns about the overuse of water for irrigation. And as part of his effort, they ended up purchasing and distributing smart irrigation controllers to people in a number of the neighborhoods in Lake Elmo. And then he's been tracking how much water has been saved as a result of that. So we've got some more prairie restoration happening. We have a couple, Barb and Mike, who have been very involved in efforts around Lily Lake. And I'm just really proud to say that Lily Lake just got taken off the impaired waters list after probably close to 25 years of just so much effort, so much money, so much public work, so much volunteer effort. This year, Lily Lake got taken off the impaired waters list. So that's just a really exciting, big collaborative accomplishment. But Barb and Mike have been very active, both on their own property, but with the Lake Association at Lily Lake. And Barb kind of has a background and experience in community meeting facilitation. And so she brought that to play this past year when COVID hit and everybody was, kind of in the state of what should we do? She started creating these opportunities for online virtual engagement with the Lake Association and actually stewarded them through this whole process of creating a strategic vision for what they want Lily Lake to look like in the future. So we'll keep going up here. Here's John that we mentioned that's in both programs, and the inspiration for some of the new gravel bed tree nurseries that we are going to be seeing in our area in the near future. And I think that brings us up to Tom. And I'm pretty sure that I saw Tom log on a moment ago. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Tom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Fury, and I live in South Minneapolis, right next to Bone Lake. And so we have a cabin on Bone Lake in the northern edge of Washington County. And we got the cabin about maybe 6 years ago. And shortly after I got it, I saw some information about cost share grants that were being provided by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. And I applied for one and got one. And so we, over the last 5 years, about 70% of our property is now native prairie or native shoreline. And we really like it a lot. Occasionally, some people in the family think it's a little bit wild and rough, but it's beautiful. And that's how I got interested. And shortly after I got the cost share grant, I believe Mike Sorensen, who was one of the staff members, invited me to join the water stewardship program. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And so that's how I got involved. And I was in the same class with Cole and John and a couple of the others that you mentioned as well, but those are the two that I remember most, and Sally as well. And actually on our property, we have a couple of trees from Sally's yard. I think some pagoda dogwoods that we dug up because they were getting a little thick in some parts of her yard. John was very interested and had talked a lot about the gravel bed nursery that he had started in Marina and St. Croix. And when I first heard about it, it was around the time when the tornado hit Bone Lake. And I thought, we need to, and one of the biggest, most damaging things about that was how many trees were destroyed by the tornado. I don't think there were any homes really destroyed, but there were some homes damaged, but there were a lot of trees. Just a second. There, she moved to the other room. Anyway.
It's always a kid or a dog.
Yeah, I know. And so that's how I got interested in gravel bed nursery. And I started working on a project just before COVID kind of got intense and sort of put it on pause. And then Angie mentioned that there was this grant program again this year, and I threw together all my old material and sent it off, and a grant appeared. So I'm looking forward to establishing a gravel bed nursery of an appropriate size to help plant trees around Bone Lake and in Scandia as well, because several organizations in the city of Scandia have been interested as well. And some of the other things I do to help, I really love being a part of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District Advisory Board. I'm on the Citizen Advisory Board. I'm also a camp volunteer taking water samples of Bone Lake. I've done some citizen monitoring of the lakes and streams, especially around Bone Lake. I think we actually won a best award for the watershed districts this year for the citizen water monitoring, and I'm glad to have been able to be a part of that. Those are some of the things that I'm doing now, and like I said, I'll be starting to talk to I chose to come to this meeting today instead of going to the Bone Lake Association meeting.
Oh no.
But I will.
We appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here, and it's great. It's great to hear what some other people are doing, and I hope that I've learned a little bit already, and I'm hopeful that I can maybe review some of the stuff that you're going through and learn even more. So thanks. Those are a few. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm glad. Thanks for asking me who I was and what I'm doing.
Well, and I'm excited to pick up where we left off. Like Tom said, it was, just almost literally right before COVID began that we had convened a big group meeting, and we had the city and we had the two watershed districts and the conservation district, and we all sat there and talked about what we were going to do together. And then, boom, the world changed. So, yeah, it's exciting to continue forward.
Exactly. It's great.
So this brings us to the end, really. It brings us to the top of Washington County, and the end of, the introductions to the 20 stewards that we have gotten trained so far. The one thing that I will mention that I'm kind of excited about, I've been talking with Freshwater, Artreach St. Croix and Franconia Sculpture Garden, and plans are in the work that we will hopefully get some grant funding next year, and are looking at creating a new cohort of stewards that would be artist stewards. So this is something that Freshwater has piloted out in, I think it's been in the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District where they were piloting it so far. Rice Creek Watershed District, Hennepin County. I think there's like 3 different places. But, having a group of people who are already artists become trained as water stewards and then get, a small seed grant to be able to use towards an art project of their choice. So that's something that we're looking forward to hopefully working on together in the future. Yeah, and I think it was time to open it up to a conversation now, right, Tova?
Absolutely. I have one more steward who
Oh,
I
sure.
didn't see Don when I started talking through everything. And so I wanted to invite him to talk about his current projects. I had mentioned the Bernie's Bog at Warner Nature Center, but there's all sorts of cool stuff in the works. And before Don comes on, I don't know if I clarified, we've been talking about native plants and buckthorn as a non-native plant. And just for posterity, in case it wasn't already mentioned, native plants tend to be great for water balancing because they live here and they're used to our kind of climate, and also great for the pollinators, great for the birds, the bees, the butterflies, everything like that. So there are a lot of reasons to have those native plants out there and a lot of reasons to get that education out there. Buckthorn, I've decided, is the jerk of the vegetable kingdom, and allelopathic. It doesn't like having anything else. It doesn't have a good root system to hold erosion down, and so it's just not good for not good for the riverbanks, not good for the landscape here, and then also the buckthorn berries aren't super good for birds. It gives them upset tummies, from what I've heard from people who actually do science. So I just wanted to put that clarification in as we're talking about native, non-native. These are the reasons for that in terms of the plants that we're talking in so many steward projects, and then research, giving us the information. Don, if you want to talk about your research, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Grinnell University for providing the funds, and for Northwoods and Waters and the St. Croix Master Watershed Steward Program for granting the award. I am with a small team, 4 of us, and we are recently adding 2 more to our group at Bellwin. Oh, let me back up. The grant has allowed us to continue our work at Bellwin Conservancy on the Valley Creek water system, and to begin research on Sunfish Lake and a couple of other ponds at Sally Manzara Interpretive Nature Center. So at Bellwin, we do water testing at 6 different sites, all the way from the headwaters all the way down to the mouth. The headwaters at Metcalf Marsh, and that also includes the South Branch, where it comes in to join the North Branch. So we also do discharge studies at those sites. So and so that's it in a nutshell. At Bellwin Conservancy. At Sally Manzara, we are starting to do work. We have about 6 volunteers there. We are in the process of training them, gathering our supplies, and mapping out our strategy. So it's taken a lot of work, a lot of miscues, and that sort of thing. But anyway, we are on our way, and we're pretty excited about that. So that's it.
That is great. And then Don, before we let you go, you've been doing this work for a while now, and it's important. I've been learning, I don't have a science background. I've been learning how important it is to have that research base so you can move forward with all sorts of other projects. How are you foreseeing that your research is benefiting the host sites or other partners or other entities?
Yeah, that's a good question. Our intent at Bellwin is to create a database, and we do testing every 2 weeks, so we have a lot of data points, and that's basically what we're trying to do, is give a measure against which we can measure any future impacts, adverse impacts on the stream. The stream itself is a self-perpetuating trout stream, so we want to protect that, and that's the main purpose there. The area is subject to development, residential, and also farming. So there's possibility of leaking septic systems as well. We have noticed a great increase in nitrates in the South Branch. So, so that's what we're trying to do there. At Sunfish Lake, we're once again trying to get a baseline, but we're also trying to understand the difference, water dynamics from a large body of water to and a small body of water, and a body of water that has been industrially polluted. So again, the database is really important against which to measure changes.
Excellent, awesome. And living on a trout stream, and I noticed there were some other Trout Unlimited members who are also watershed stewards. There's a lot of interesting keeping those waters cold and clear. So thank you so much, Don. And I think open it up to questions, comments, anybody who wants to jump in with anything to say about projects or questions for our stewards.
I can go first. Thank you for the overview of all the projects that are going on. But if you had unlimited amount of time, what are other projects that you'd like to see done? What else is in ready to go out?
Unlimited time or unlimited all the resources?
I guess unlimited all the resources.
I'm gonna jump on and then I'll let Angie and anybody else jump in on this, but I would dearly love, I've been inspired by Julie and Mary's project and inspired by getting to work with youth in my community. I think having youth water stewardship trainings and projects and programs and events is so important, and I would love to see more of that.
You know, it's funny that you say that, Tova, because I have thought to myself in the past, how cool would it be to have like a junior water steward program where high school students would get trained, you know, over the summer, kind of as a summer internship. And it's something that, you know, like I had a senior in high school just this May who volunteered with me for 3 weeks as an internship program. And it felt like such a good experience for both of us. And I've just, if I had unlimited time and resources and the ability to, you know, make something like that happen, I would love to do that.
Anyone else? I'm right there with you, and I think we're gonna try to get a little bit of stuff up online so that at least projects that involve youth are going to be a little bit more template accessible on the North Woods and Waters website, and hopefully that will expand and grow, and we can leverage this great watershed community to work on that, among other things. Any other?
Yeah, this is Julie, and I guess I'll put a plug in for the Wild Rivers Conservancy Youth Education Program called Rivers Are Alive. They would love volunteers. If you know anyone who would like to work with 4th graders all the way up to high school students, getting in the mud, finding those dragonfly larvae, figuring out the quality of the water, having fun while they're doing it. Just know that that program is out there called Rivers Are Alive with the Wild Rivers Conservancy.
Awesome. Yeah. And that was several of those adorable pictures of the kids with the bugs in little aquariums. So it's not only educational, but adorable. Any other host sites that are having events or openings or things that I forgot to mention? There's just so much in the watershed, and an hour is not enough time to do honor to everything.
Looks like Carol has her
Yeah,
hand up.
yeah. You know, what's interesting is obviously the whole youth, the need to engage youth is just critical. So I know time and money and all the rest, but you've got some projects that are very exciting already that are going on. And maybe it takes an invitation or a way to put out in front of schools or people or youth groups or whatever, that here is a program and they could just jump into the program, be an extra set of hands in any of these projects that are going on. And although it wouldn't be a youth program, it would certainly engage youth in what's already going on, which means you don't have to do a lot of extra programming for them. They're going to learn through the projects that are going on. So I would throw that out as a real possibility that might happen and engage youth without having to necessarily create a whole new youth program.
Good point. Good point. Work with what we've got and build on that. And I will also put a plug in, Wisconsin has a freshwater collaborative. All of the university, UW system-wide is working on getting some youth engagement in terms of mostly university level, but also considering some high school level, getting students aware of water science related professional opportunities, etc. So there might be some more connection opportunities. And I see some great comments coming up in the chat with some connections. So if anybody has suggestions for additional resources, things that people should check out, feel free to drop them in the chat or make a comment. And I think, yeah, the rivers are alive. Some good additional shout outs to host sites and partner programs here.
Cool. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I'm just going to say a few last words. Let's see, gotta pull up my screen again. Okay, can everybody see that? All right, so if you like this program, our next presentation is next month on the 4th Tuesday, as always. We're gonna have Ginger from Franconia present on Foreground, which is a new art project that's taking over landscapes all across the Midwest. Is a huge project. They're doing really neat things. You wanna know what's happening. And that's gonna be, let's see, I don't know if I said the date on that, but whatever the 4th Tuesday is. What else is going on? If you want to see other shows, you can go onto Northwoods and Waters and look up Live for Northwoods and Waters. It's going to be under that events tab. And our website, northwoodsandwaters.org, is going to be where you're going to find more information on the Watershed Stewards. So keep tuned for that. That's going to be coming up soon. If you want to find out more events going on in the watershed, check out links at northwoodsandwaterslinks.org. This is a lot of place-based activities, and you can look up events based on where you are. And if you want to stay in contact with other storytellers, other experts, or if you yourself feel like you have something to say, reach out to us on northwoodsandwaters.org/storytellers to become a storyteller. And yeah, that's our show. Stay in contact with us on our Facebook or Instagram. Send us an email. Visit our website. Yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you especially to the Watershed Stewards. This is such a delight. I learned so much, and it's so fun to know what's going on. You know, I feel like it's a bit of hope. It's a bit of inspiration. Yeah. Anything else? All right.
Thank you so much, Sashi, for taking us through this whole presentation.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you all. You inspire me. I'm super pumped just hearing about all the great things you're working on.
I echo that. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Well, I
Nice
hope everybody
job.
gets to go out and enjoy the last hour of sunlight in the day.
Have a fabulous night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.